deep in the heart, like Joe.
But you never know that you could. And when you feel that way, ain't it good, good dancing in the red and gold. Dancing in the red and gold.
What's up, Faithful? Welcome to the 49er Faithful UK Live. As always, I'm your host, Paul Hope, and on today's show, we will be previewing this Sunday's game against the Buffalo Bills. That's right, people, the 9-2 Bills, who are currently first in the AFC East and hoping to clinch a fifth straight AFC East title. And what better, they're coming off the bye week and they've just beaten the Chiefs. That's correct, Faithful. If you thought it was going to get easier, strap in, buckle up those seatbelts, because, chaps, it isn't getting any easier, is it?
No, certainly not. But there could be a leveller, Paul. There could definitely be a leveller on Sunday.
There could be.
The snow.
Well, Gareth, I was going to say the big question everyone is asking is, will our recent struggles continue against Josh Allen? But you've just let the cat out of the bag. This could be
Sorry, I've ruined it.
snow game. It's all right, buddy. It's all right. Now,
That's not coming as a shock to anyone. Buffalo, end of November, snow game.
Yeah.
I don't think I
mean,
think I've broken any news there.
To be honest, so I did some digging on Apple weather, literally 5 minutes before we went on. So the temperature's going to be -2, and it's a 20 past 8 kickoff in Buffalo. I was just saying to Paul it hadn't clicked with us that they're an East Coast team, and there's only a 5-hour difference between us and them. So it kicks off like 20 past 1 in the morning for us. It's actually 20 past 8. So it's a night game. It's going to be -2. It's actually going to feel like -8. Now, apparently, there's going to be no precipitation, no snow during the game, as far as this is concerned. However, there's forecast for quite a bit before the game, and Paul's just mentioned he's been looking at a Buffalo stream, and they are predicting, was it a weather bomb?
yeah, so
Oh joy!
as per people, we've gone live. We've gone down a rabbit hole. Notes are out the window, but Lee is right.
Straight
So
away.
apparently, the Sunday night tweet that I've seen is that the week in Buffalo is facing a winter storm watch with over half foot of lake effect snow, 30-mile-per-hour winds, and wind chills near single digits. Or,
I mean,
as me and
I'm
Lee would
gonna-
call it, a normal day in the northeast of England.
I was just about to say, I mean, half a foot of snow doesn't seem like a lot of snow, to be honest,
Well,
in the
that
grand
is-
scheme of things. Mind you, I did go
Grand
and watch
scheme
the
of Buffalo.
Steelers-Browns game, and in the space of 5 minutes, it went from being able to see the field to the broadcast studio actually superimposing the field on top of the snow so that you can make out where the field was. That's how bad it was in the space of 10 minutes.
So, for those people who are listening and not watching on YouTube, we have skipped the introductions. So I am going to bring it back, people, because as you'll have noticed, Gareth is a guest tonight. He's not the host. So helping me to break down everything and much, much more. First of all, is everyone's favourite president, Lee. This is Garbage Gowland.
Hi, folks. How are you doing?
I had
I
to
was
get-
right. It was garbage.
It was garbage, mate.
Come on, let's be honest. It was absolute garbage.
I listened to the pod in the office today and I kept chuckling and people were like, what are you chuckling at? And I was like, you just won't understand. You just won't get it. So the feedback has been good. And as I've alluded to, also joining us, Lee, is the man who usually has the hardest job in sports entertainment. But after Monday's rage-fueled episode, he's decided to relinquish the big chair for one night and one night only. It is, of course, Gareth Ellis.
Good evening, everyone. Well, I couldn't take your big chair on. The Wednesday big chair is yours. So,
Oh, thank you, buddy.
and like I say, I like to come on as a guest and cause chaos. It is nice to see that Lee is looking a little bit paler than you were on
Yeah,
a little
not
bit
as red.
less pink. Yeah.
Just give it a chance.
Yeah.
We start talking about the game.
Wind him up. Excellent.
It's not going to take
Excellent.
much, honest.
What do you think of our OC?
I think he's garbage. Absolute garbage. No, he's not that bad. He's not that bad. But we need somebody separate from the head coach.
See, I've set him off now.
I said it on Monday. I'll say it again.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen a few posts on our Facebook group, a few names being bandied about, and the conversation's there. It's happening on all social media. And as I said at the start, chaps, I think this game, before the start of the season, was earmarked as a difficult one. Some people even had it down as a Super Bowl preview. I mean, heading into it, the Bills are 7-point favourites. The over-under is 45.5. And I love a good stat, Gareth. And ESPN Analytics gives the Buffalo Bills a 61.3% chance of winning this game as they head into the game fresh off their bye week and following their impressive victory over the defending Super Bowl champions. Now, I read that tweet, Gareth, and thought, that means we've still got over 20% of chance of winning this game. What did you make of that stat?
I think that there's a good chance they'll come off their bye week and have forgotten how to play football, and will be still basking in the glow of the Chiefs and will underestimate us and fail to perform. But I don't know if my score prediction is going to be that confident. But there we go. That's where that percentage chance comes from. But yeah, we're facing yet another team off a bye week. We all know we were going to do that, but when you actually live the experience of it, it is quite brutal.
Yeah, what do you make of that, Lee? Because I've seen someone ask the question in our group the other day, and I shared the link to there's like a table which shows you the teams have had the worst rest compared to the others, and the Niners are up there. And like Gareth said, we knew it at the start of the season, but when it happens, you kind of are a bit frustrated that we're facing yet another contender off a bye week. It's just a difficult one, isn't it, buddy?
Well, let's face it. I mean, we came off our bye week and we didn't exactly put in a great performance. So
I can't remember the word. What kind of performance did we put in?
Does it begin with G?
A subpar performance.
Now, before we disappear into another rabbit hole and the key matchups, a closer look at the Bills' offense and defense. It is everybody's favourite time, History Corner, or as it's now affectionately known, History Corner, to give it its official title. So are you prepared for this one, boss? Have you done your homework for History Corner?
I am. It's a shortened one, but so there's no game review there. And it's a short one because there's not that much history, to be honest. This will only be game number 14 between the two teams, and the Bills lead the series 7-6. The only shutout was when the Niners beat the Bills 35-0 back in 2001. And believe it or not, that happened to be on the 2nd of December, which technically, that's when we will be watching the game, in the early hours of Monday morning on the 2nd of December. So there's not that much history. This is only the second time that we've actually faced Josh Allen, and he absolutely destroyed us the last time. But fear not. We've actually played the Bills 7 times in the month of December, and we've got a 100% record when we scored more points than them. So hopefully that'll give you some hope.
I like that.
That's about as optimistic as I can get.
That's good. That's more than I was expecting.
Good. So players who have played for both teams, there was quite a few. I got myself all excited when I saw Ray, and then I realised it wasn't Ray Armstrong, it was Ray McLeod. So I felt a little bit let down there. Other notable players, Frank Gore, Terrell Owens, O.J. Simpson, he only played for us 1 or 2 seasons. Dante Whitner, Dante Johnson, he actually played for a different team than the 49ers. I can't believe that. Marquise Goodwin, John Feliciano, and Manny Lawson are the ones that I've picked out. Manny Lawson, there was high hopes when we picked him in the first round of the draft back in 2007, I think it might have been. But he didn't turn out to be that good. And that's pretty much it. I could have gone through some of the games, but to be honest, the games weren't that exciting. Or the games where the 49ers won, they weren't that exciting. So that is your History Corner. Short and sweet. And I
Yeah,
didn't say garbage once.
no, you didn't. I wasn't sure if you were going to go with Leonard Floyd as a player who played for both. Because
Yeah, I was going to put him down, but obviously, I mean, he's only played for us for half a season.
yeah, in that game you alluded to, the Josh Allen game, I remember that one because I think that's what
Yeah,
Kyle hoped Trey Lance would become, the Josh Allen of that game, and
Definitely.
obviously I think that's
Yeah.
where. So, like you said, Lee, I mean, before we get into the nitty gritty, Gareth, Josh Allen not having a bad season, is he, buddy?
He's not having a bad season at all. Let's say that. It's been quiet
well, as
on
far as
the.
his PFF rating goes, it's still his worst season he's had, which I was quite surprised
Yeah,
about because
but-
I thought he's been having a really good season.
PFF is a guide, I think.
It is, but it tends to be, as far as quarterback play is concerned, it tends to reflect quarterback play quite accurately compared to other areas.
We're going to get into it all in the offense because that game you alluded to, I was looking for the stats there. He had a QB rating of 139. He passed for
That's right.
375 yards and he had 4 touchdowns. So
Yeah,
I think
he
all
absolutely
of
tore us
us
apart.
were like, oh man. Now, San Francisco's health will be a major factor. It is too early in the week to guess at whether Purdy, Williams, Ward, and Bosa can return. There are indications all 4 of them will do so. And before we went live, Nicholas McGee tweeted out that Purdy will be limited in practice today. There is method to our madness of doing a preview show on the Wednesday because it is Thanksgiving tomorrow. Lee put an early request to have Thanksgiving off. So being the boss, we granted that. Now, if all 4 of them can play, that will make Buffalo's task much more difficult than Green Bay. That said, the Bills at home are 5-0 this season. They're 32-6 since the start of 2020. And as I said, Lee, we are going to dive into the matchup. Now, Gareth isn't the host tonight. Now, we
I've had
always
work
ask
to do.
at this part of the show, have we done our homework? So, Gareth, have you done your homework on the Bills offense? I like it, buddy. I like it.
There are some scribbles there. The Bills' offense coming off a bye week, as we've already mentioned, they've won 6 straight, including potentially getting over the hump by facing beating the Chiefs last game out. They're still going to enjoy that, and I think that is one of the games that shows that sometimes the PFF doesn't quite capture everything when it's just yards and completions. It's getting the job done. And I think that's what Allen has been doing this season. He's been getting the job done, dragging his team with him and making it count, even to the point of if it doesn't reflect on his actual QB stats. I think that's where PFF fails. It doesn't include the eye test of how good does this guy look. I can think back to all those times, Montana's games. A lot of those PFF wouldn't have graded him particularly well, but it doesn't tell you the story. The offense runs with him. They have a very good offensive line. I did a bit of a dive into offensive line rankings today, and it's what a surprise. The best teams in the league also have the best offensive lines. It's almost like there's a correlation between being the best in the league and having the best offensive lines. The Bills have the 5th ranked offensive line. That's pretty solid all the way throughout. I think they have been dealing with a bit of injuries, but we haven't had the injury update. But I think they're expecting to potentially get some people back after the bye week. I think they've been missing someone on the offensive line for the last few games, but it doesn't seem to have slowed them down. And the rest of the offense, there's no real standout stars, but there's a lot of people who follow the mantra that we've been talking about. Do your job. They spread the ball around to a lot of different receivers without necessarily having to have a superstar. And the run game isn't exactly high powered, but it gets the job done. It does just enough. I think they're only somewhere around 4 yards per carry, just over. So it's not setting the world alight, but it's reliable and I think it's consistent. And that's what you can do where you have a good, solid O-line. So I think we're going to have a real struggle. I think Allen there's a risk he is going to dictate what we can do. And I think it's going to be very tough for our defensive line to get much pressure on him. And I think he's going to have the opportunity, weather permitting, to spread the ball around and make some throws. And if he can't, he's just going to do what quarterbacks do against us, which is just run. And he's going to keep those chains moving by scampering for those first downs. That's my concern. And I think it's going to be a big test for our defense, which, as we said on the last show, is looking a little bit listless and directionless. I don't think this is the kind of bullying offense, a bad weather offense that we're going to want to face. And I have a concern that we are going to find it very difficult to get hold of the ball offensively because the Bills are just not going to give it up, other than when they've got 7 points on the board. Nice and cheerful. There's a reason why I don't usually do this, because it ends up sounding like that. Do you have any questions that I can bat aside?
Not so much questions, but I've got to say, for the last couple of days, we've all been worried about the weather and what that's going to do to the game. I am now actually hoping for
a leveler
game. It is. It's a leveler. And I think going up against the Bills, as you've just said, if it's not a snow game and the field's okay, we are going to struggle against this team because of how we've been playing over the last few weeks. Well, how we've been playing all season. And if we can get a snow game and it makes it a leveler, I think we have an opportunity there to actually go in there and beat them. Because I think our defensive line, even though we're not getting the pressures, they are quite well built to handle something like a snow game. If we need to do nothing but stop the run and concentrate on the run, I think we'll be able to do it. If we can negate the pass play because of the weather, I think that's our best chance of going into Buffalo and turning these over, because they are a good team.
What concerns me about bad weather games is the desire and wanting it when it's cold and it's in the third quarter. Buffalo at home, Buffalo can wrap up their division with a win. They're going to want to keep that momentum, and that doesn't sound like the team that I saw play in Green Bay on Sunday in terms of that desire. That's my concern.
Yeah, but I would, so going back to what we said on Monday, if Shanahan's been doing his job, you saw how angry he was on Sunday when we had the 2 penalties for 12 men on the field. He was absolutely livid. And I'm hoping he took that into the locker room at the end of the game and absolutely balled out every single player on that team. Because they should be motivated going in this game. We've had 2 back-to-back losses. The last one was an absolute nightmare. It was. We just did not look like a very good team. We looked like the team that Shanahan inherited back in 2017.
See,
we look like a team anymore.
See, before we I was going to ask Gareth a question, but you've just reminded me there, Lee. A few people were confused because after the Green Bay game, we've gone back home. It's Thanksgiving tomorrow. That could be a masterstroke that Shanahan's let the players go back and have time with their family. Again, people might shoot me down for this. Is this really a must-win game for us as Gareth they can wrap up their division? This isn't in conference for us. Obviously, a win at this stage of the season, we need all the wins we can get. But I think we said before this 2-game stretch, we could go 5-2, as in lose to the Packers, lose to the Bills, and then if we win out. So like you said, Gareth, it could be interesting. But I do think Carl might have done a masterstroke there, Lee, letting the players go home and have Thanksgiving with the family. I mean, it might blow up in the face because by the time they travel back and all the rest of it, and it's never ideal, is it? Flying back to the West Coast, then back to the East Coast. And like you said, it's going to be cold. So maybe going from California to the cold won't help. But what do you guys make of that decision by Kyle to not stay out on the East Coast this time?
I think I saw something where that question had been asked of him, and he said if it hadn't been Thanksgiving, we would have probably done our East Coast road trip as we have done previously. But because it happened to be the Thanksgiving game, they didn't want to deny the players that opportunity, and so have headed back home. And I think they're saying that the time, it being the night game, it might suit them slightly better because it's the same time as their afternoon game on the West Coast, and so you can just stick with your body clock being in that West Coast time, as though you were playing what it is it the 3 p.m. kickoff at West Coast. So that worked in their favour. I think it's one of the few things that might be, given that the Bills have obviously had their bye week and are going to be a bit more cold weather acclimatized than we are. We have played well in bad weather. I mean, obviously the playoff win over Green Bay, the blocked punt and the stole it. That was a cold game, though we just simply perhaps played as badly as the Packers. And I do remember, was it 5 years ago now? Do you remember that horrific wet weather game in Washington where we won 9-3?
9-0, I think it was, wasn't it? Wasn't it 9-0?
9, whichever it was. At the end of that game, when all the players came out and were skidding across the field and enjoying themselves, that is what I mean when I'm talking about the desire in the cold weather game.
Yeah, true.
Or a bad weather game. The fact that they did not care how bad the weather was, they were going to get that win and could mess around with it rather than run off. Go on.
That same season we played the Ravens. It was the week after we played the Green Bay Packers in 2019. We played the Ravens on the Sunday, and it was absolutely torrential rain, and the Ravens beat us up that day.
Yeah.
I mean,
fair enough. But
you talk about the
come on, I'm trying to be positive, Lee.
yeah, he's not in the mood tonight, Gareth. We're going to get to that.
Garbage Gowland, aren't we?
We need it to be balanced.
Yeah, it's going to be balanced for us. But I like that Debo has done his show today, and he's come out and he's stuck up for Kyle Shanahan. So that's another glimpse behind. Obviously he's not going to go on his podcast and slag Kyle Shanahan off, but equally he didn't speak to the media on Sunday night, and I quite liked how things can be blown out of proportion. And he said, NFL game, if the media want to talk to you, you get told. If you're not told, you can leave. And he said, nobody wanted to talk to me after that performance on Sunday. So I left. He said it wasn't a big deal. But, I quite like that. But going back to your thing, Gareth, about the Bills offense, quite interesting. They changed offensive coordinator. And a lot of people were a bit worried that Brady was coming in and he didn't have a superstar. And like you said, they spread the ball around. And it's quite dangerous when you look on the game tape. And you look at the scores, you look at the teams that they've beaten. Like you said, there's no superstar. I know they traded for Cooper, and I think he's one of those struggling with an injury. But the run game is solid. Josh Allen is solid. And it's that mantra of everybody can feed, so you don't know where the threat's coming from.
Absolutely. And I think it shows that the coach trusts the players to go out and execute, and that Allen is quite happy to throw to somebody who's further down on the depth chart when the play requires it, and that's the guy on the field. He doesn't seem to he has that trust in the players around him. It seems to be very different than us, where you get that handful of players who seem to get all of the feeding, and everybody else gets very little. The Bills have got a lot of players, I think, with over 100 receiving yards this year, so it's not a huge amount, but he spread the ball around. And it's the same with the run game. It relies on a couple of running backs, but you've got a third running back in Josh Allen. I think he's their second leading rusher, because it's such an important part of his game, and they clearly just build it into the game plan. They're going to be difficult to stop because you haven't got that kind of person to key into, that wide receiver one where you think, okay, if we can shut that down, their offense is going to be feeding on scraps. I think that's one of their strengths, is that they're just good everywhere without being great anywhere.
We talk a lot on this show about the eye test and not getting hung up on the stats. When you look at the ranking, you can go on Google and you can type in NFL offensive rankings, and it gives you the teams in order. Now, we're quite high up in those total offense rankings of moving the ball. But obviously, when you get down to nitty gritty, the Bills are only 13th at the moment, chaps, overall. Rushing offense, 11th. Passing offense, 13th. But then you get to the red zone, Gareth, the third in the red zone. They convert in the red zone.
Effective.
Scoring offense, third. Red zone offense, was 6th. Third down conversion rate is 9th. So like you said, when it matters, when the field shortens, Josh Allen seems to come into his own. Now, I know, Lee, we're bigging him up to be an absolute superstar. And I think people tuning in were probably expecting us to come along and say the snow's going to level it all, the Niners are going to smother him. But as you said quite rightly, we have to be balanced. And I think that's what we're trying to do. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's definitely fair to say. I mean, I would say one thing about Josh Allen. You're right. He's been very good this season. He's very good in the red zone. But he does, every now and again, just has one of those games where you think it's, if you rip his skin off, you'll find it's Dak Prescott underneath. And he's capable of those games. And it might be pressure, it might not be pressure getting to him. But every now and again, he does falter. And we kind of need to hope that that game's going to be Sunday night.
Every quarterback has that one game a season
Yeah.
where they're not on it. So,
And
but
coming off a bye week, you might be a little bit complacent.
Sean McDermott has never lost coming off the bye week at the Bills.
Yeah, I had that stat for later, Gareth. I was like, God's sake, I'll not mention
Oh,
that
I've stole
at the
your
start.
thunder.
No,
I
it's
thought it
good
was
to
your job to
sprinkle it
cheer
in.
people up, and my job to knock it back down again.
We just like to keep the people guessing. So for those people who are watching live, we do appreciate the comments in the chat, but we're trying not to interrupt the flow. We are aware that we've merged the two tonight.
The chaos.
We decided to go live and with a preview, but Martin Hughes has shared some information about Trent Williams, which we'll get to in a moment.
Thanks, Mark.
Is there anything else on the Bills' offense, or shall we move on to the Bills' defense, Lee?
No, I've got nothing more on the
I've got
offensive
nothing
side of the ball. I think we're not going to win the trench battle on this one. But Allen has gone through periods of throwing more than one interception. He seems to have cleaned that up, but it could still be there if he gets a bit throw happy. But I think it's going to be a 1-1 game.
Well, Gareth,
So Jordan Mason's going to get one carry.
don't upset Nadji. He'll be
better
watching back. So it is nice to see that you've done your homework, Gareth. It is much appreciated. So Lee is going to change the slides because he's better at this than me. So the Bills defense, chaps, coming out of the bye week, I did think it was worth highlighting that the Bills have suffered some injuries on defense this season. They've lost key starters throughout. Now, the reason I wanted to start with that, with my scouting report, is despite so many starters missing significant time, they're still ranked 9th in defensive EPA per play, 9th in defensive DV away, and it has allowed the 9th fewest points per drive in the NFL. And I thought that was interesting because we've spoke a lot on this show about the injuries to our team, and we mentioned that other teams suffer from injuries as well. So stepping outside of my bubble, Lee, before I go deeper, the names. So Bernard has missed 3 games, Johnson's missed 3 games, Ed Oliver has missed 2 games, and Matt Milano, who's a key piece in this defense, has missed 11 games so far. So it is interesting that they've got a new coordinator. They're trying to introduce a new scheme. I mean, I know McDermott is a defensive head coach, but he isn't the coordinator. So before I go further, were you aware of the injuries that they'd suffered so far and how well they were doing before I go deeper into this?
I knew about Milano, but not the others.
What about you, Gareth?
Only a couple of hours ago when I was doing the homework.
So the reason I mentioned the injuries is what they've done really well this year, and as 49ers fans, it'll probably somewhere we should start. It begins with the defensive line. So defensive end, Greg Rousseau, and the trio of defensive tackles, Ed Oliver, Darquin Jones, and Austin Johnson. They've been excellent so far. They've been really good in a run defense at freeing up the second level defenders to help against the run. They did this particularly well against the Seahawks. Now, I enjoyed watching that when I was preparing for today, Lee, because it's always good to see the Seahawks struggle. But then I remembered we're facing this defense, and it was quite interesting to see they kind of have that approach that we used to have under Salah. Do you know, the swarm approach, where if the runner gets past someone, it's kind of, as you said with the offense, Gareth, do your job, get to the ball carrier. And they're all playing for each other, which is what spoke volumes for me. The nickel corner, Taron Johnson, provides excellent coverage in the run support. Balon Spector shows up on the stat sheet. And even occasional starter Taylor Rapp from the safety, he sometimes jumps in, and he had a great game against Walker. He bottled him up quite well when I was watching the Seahawks. Now, this is where I'm supposed to say they've got some weaknesses. So I'm going to open it to you two before I go any further, because when I was doing my reporting, I haven't seen a weakness that jumps off the page. Have you seen any weaknesses so far, Gareth, in this front seven and their run coverage?
No, but I think Milano is going to be a miss if he's still unable to play. I think maybe that might be an area we try to target. I mean, I'd love to see us go back to that offense where we had those short, quick passes over the middle that was the part of the game that Jimmy used to do very well, and it used to get those slants to Kittle and others, and then let them run and plow through players. And we all loved watching that. It was effective, and we kind of moved away from it. That's something I would like to see. Maybe if the weather forces Shanahan's hand to think about things differently, this could be an area I think that let the pass rush come in and then drop the ball in behind them. But that's easy for me to say from my slightly warmer location than the Bills sideline. Lee, what do you think?
Yeah, I would have some concerns about that. These short, quick passes do tend to come in with some speed. With a -8 wind chill factor, everybody's hands are going to be absolutely stone cold. It's going to make catching the ball and keeping hold of it difficult. Even if we're running the ball, it's going to be difficult to keep hold of the ball as well. So as far as Paul's question about weaknesses in the team, no, I don't particularly see that. However, other than the Chiefs game, I haven't really watched the Bills this season. So I don't know how they're playing, whether or not the stats live up to how they're doing, who they played. I would say this is going to come down to Shanahan, unfortunately. It's going to come down to Shanahan and how he can scheme our offense to actually beat the Bills.
I mean, I've seen...
If it's short intermediate passes, that's what it'll take. I think if it's a snow game and we go long, he needs to be shot, because that's just asking for trouble. I think it needs to be run heavy approach, looking at the team and reading about how good they are at run stopping. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a tough night. You just have to hope there's something there that's a leveler, like the weather.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched a lot of them live. I watched the Jets game, and the Jets pushed them really close. And interestingly, Bobby Babich, he's a new coordinator as well. And he kind of reminded me a bit of that energy Salah and Ryan's brought in. So when I was doing my deep dive, he attended a press conference this season and he had a hat on that said SFP. And when he asked what did that mean, smart, fast and physical. And apparently when he came in, he had these hats and T-shirts made for all the guys and said, if you don't buy in, give this back to me now. There's the door. And like you said earlier, you've asked about how have they played this year, not just going off the stats. Assignment-wise, they've been sound in every game I've saw. There was only one play in Seattle where it looked like Walker had got through. Looked like one of the linebackers had got pinned inside off the block. And it looked like Walker was about to escape to the house. And cornerback Douglas managed to get upfield and tackle him down. Now, the reason I asked you two if there was a weakness, feels a bit harsh picking on Damar Hamlin, but teams do tend to focus on him because he's not the quickest. So the team coverage is quite well, but they are individual players that Kyle Shanahan tends to kind of focus and pick on. And I say that with the greatest respect of Hamlin because we all know what happened. It's great to see him back on the field. But that was one player that...
I'll be honest, Paul. I must be hard-nosed because I couldn't care less what happened to him. He's a football player. End of story. He's back on the field. He's the same as everybody else. I could not care less. I'm glad he's okay, but I would pick on him time and time and time again. If he's the weakest link, I would make sure he has the worst game of his life. He gets off that field thinking, that's it, you know what, I don't want to play this game anymore.
You want to retire him at half time.
What happened like 2 years ago. Yeah.
No, but I mean, the reason I mentioned it, it's just, despite the injuries, they've produced big results this year. They were really good against the Cardinals in week 1. They shut down the Dolphins in week 2. The Texans, everybody had this much vaunted Texans offense. They kept them to 23 points on the road. They overmatched the Jags, which wasn't a surprise. The Jets, the Titans. And then they beat the Chiefs. as Gareth said, that Steve Young moment where they took the monkey off the back. And that was a great game to watch. And what the defence did really well is obviously they shut down Patrick Mahomes. And they won that game by 9 points, the Bills. So it wasn't as if it was like a last-second field goal. So I think what's impressive is a lot of questions were asked about this defence at the start of the season. A lot of questions with the injuries. And they've just overcome. And like you said, Gareth, they're hungry. They've got the title to play for. I think if the Dolphins lose on, is it Thursday night the Dolphins are playing, the Bills could wrap up the division. Even if the Dolphins win, the Bills know they keep winning. They're going to wrap up the division. And we've always said, Lee, you win your division. That's all you need to do in football, and then worry about the playoffs. So that, chaps, is basically what I've done, my little deep dive on so far. And then I was thinking, Lee, maybe, there's some good news when I saw that Von Miller was suspended, but he's been unsuspended. He's not the Von Miller that was at the Broncos, but he's another rotational piece that they've added over the last couple of weeks. And I think safety is possibly a weakness, to answer my own question, but I'm not going to say it's like a massive weakness given the stats that I've produced. But that seems to be what, when I was on the Bills Content World this week doing my deep dive, that seems to be an area that themselves are saying, if Kyle Shanahan gets all his key pieces back, if, Kittle's on form, if Debo's back to form, if Purdy's playing, which is the big one, isn't it, Gareth? We need to know whether Brock Purdy's playing.
Yeah, but I think it's, we're sounding like the broken record. It's gonna have to be a run game. I mean, this is a game that's built for a guy like Jordan Mason, surely. And if he doesn't see some usage in this game, then there's serious questions about what on earth our game planning is, because everybody would do that in the bad weather. Yeah, you rely on the run game because the throw in it is just so dangerous. Doesn't matter how good you are. And we know, Brock has let the ball slip out of his hands more than once. I think particularly in maybe in the bad weather. If his shoulder is still going to have some soreness, he's not going to be wanting to hurl it too far. And our O-line's got to give him the time to do any of that. We know we've got the pass catchers. We know Jennings and Kittle will be able to take balls out of the air and hold on to them. But we've got to have a game plan that revolves around running the ball and not just giving it to McCaffrey and hoping that he's going to break some tackles and take it 30 yards like he used to. But he's clearly not quite there this season, and I don't know that we're getting those lanes open for him, particularly if Trent's going to be missing another game.
Their
as
Russian
he's scooting
defense,
about.
Sorry, Lee, their Russian defense is slightly better than their passing defense if you go off the stats. And we know on this show, not just to blindly trust the stats, they're 10th overall in the red zone, so they're allowing a 51.3% conversion rate against. They've allowed 24 touchdowns on the season, Lee, so it's not like they're leaking a lot of points. And they've got 27 sacks so far and 13 interceptions. So to answer your question about, you haven't seen a lot of the game tape, you look at the stats and you think, they're ranked 15th overall. Then you start digging it down a little bit and you think, they're dangerous, this defence.
They're not bad at anything.
Yeah,
they're not the best, but there's not that many weaknesses to exploit.
Yeah, so I mean, I've put Martin's comment up there because you're saying Purdy's the important person coming off injury. I don't think it is, actually. I mean, if you're going to be running the ball quite a lot, I think Trent. If Trent's missing, then that's a huge miss to the O-line. I know he's not having a great season, or he's not having the best season that he's had, but still, he makes such a huge difference. You saw Jalen Moore. And this is where I agree with you about PFF stats, Gareth, because Jalen Moore was actually one of our highest graded players, but he certainly didn't pass the eye test because of the amount of pressure that was getting past him. But if Trent is missing, that's a huge blow to our run game, and that's why I think he's the important player there.
Unless we had a running quarterback, maybe to rely on if Purdy isn't good to go. Yeah,
I wonder if we got one of those.
I mean, you talk about Trent. I saw David Lombardi tweeted out that we signed 32-year-old offensive lineman Cameron Irvin to the practice squad. So I did wonder, Lee, whether that was linked to Trent Williams and could he possibly be,
No, I think that's linked to Jake Brendel.
Well, You
In
said
fact, I
that.
hope it's linked to Jake
well,
Brendel.
to burst your bubble, he was Alex Mack's successor in Cleveland, but he struggled with shotgun snaps at that spot. So apparently he's played everywhere else on the offensive line since,
Right.
just not centre. So I must admit, boss, when I saw that we'd signed him and I put a quick Wikipedia search, I was like, he's played centre. And then I looked down and I was like, oh, maybe not. Because we do like to play shotgun with Brock Purdy there. But you never know, Lee. Could he be any worse than Jake Brendel? I don't know whether I want to wind you up
Yes.
tonight or not.
Probably. Well, he could be. He could
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
So that is the Bills' defense. Unless either of you two chaps want to ask any questions or anyone in the chat wants to ask.
They haven't.
Also, again, I mean, I'm going to say it's going to come down to Kyle Shanahan again. It's all going to come down to Kyle Shanahan, whether or not he can make the right decisions. And the right decision is we need to see Jordan Mason have at least double-figure carries. At least double-figure carries. He needs to spread it about a bit. If he doesn't, we're going to lose again, and we're going to lose big style. It's going to look as bad as last week, if not worse.
Well,
so, yeah, he needs to learn about his own mistakes. Not just the players, missing assignments or missing blocks, running the wrong route. He needs to learn about his own mistakes and put that right this game.
So for those people listening at home on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from, we are showing some of the live comments at this stage. So Ty Elston, appreciate you joining us, buddy, has put, screw being conservative, play action, 60-yard pass on the first play.
Well, why not?
Ty, why not? Why not? And he's
Why
also
not?
followed that up, Gareth, with go for the gusto, no guts, no glory. So I quite like it. But Red Jet Shell has come in there and saying with players rolling on scooters, it's pretty much a done deal. But as I said at the start, I do appreciate everybody in the chat. I can't get through all the comments because I don't want to interrupt the floor. Now, I was going to say we have reached that time in the show, score predictions time. And I had a whole blurb ready. In the words of Dirty Harry, you've got to ask yourself one question, Gowland. Do you feel lucky? And then just before we went live, we've had a little chat, and I don't know whether we're doing a score prediction or not. So I don't know what to do now.
We could do one. We could do an initial score prediction for the show, but for the Predictor League, what we agreed before is we'll do ours on Friday morning. Because obviously we haven't had a single practice yet. Martin's just broke the news that Trent's rolled in on a scooter, which doesn't look good.
And the insider himself, Chris Wood, has just dropped a comment there that according to Tracy Sandler, so he's naming his source, Fred fractured his ankle against the Patriots and has played through it. So that could explain. You asked quite vocally on Monday's pod, Lee, about Fred Warner and that he hadn't played so well recently. So maybe that could be a reason.
I think the phrase was, what on earth has Nick Sorensen done to Fred Warner?
Well, you know, I didn't want to quote you incorrectly, so I knew I would tee you up there. And Wayne, it's never too early for a 50-burger prediction.
Yeah,
However,
but,
chaps,
but to who?
I was just about to say, Gareth, speaking of Dirty Harry, I wonder just how many dirty points will be predicted this week. And I noticed
I'm going to be honest. I'm going dirty points.
See,
I've never strayed to the dirty side, so
I was going to say, Gareth, some people misheard me last week.
That's why
I
you
asked
Gareth.
I asked what the,
Yeah.
I was going to say, Lee, I asked what the over-under was on the amount of people going for dirty points. Now, it wasn't the over-under on the game. It's the over-under on how many people are going to go down that route, Gareth. Now, I'm not quite there yet, buddy. And I know Nadji isn't here to speak, and he was going to share his score. But last time I checked the chat, I don't believe it was there. Was it not, chaps?
I believe Nadji said he was going to give his score Sunday morning. But I think that was tongue-in-cheek as well.
Right. So, have you got the predictor table there, Lee, for those good people watching on YouTube?
I think we certainly suffered last week by recording the show and doing the predictions and then finding out Williams was out, Bosa was definitely out, and Purdy was out. Whereas at the time of recording, it certainly didn't sound like Purdy was going to be out. It sounded more like they were giving him another day to rest his shoulder. I think that was a bit of a surprise. And of course, at the moment, I don't think we know for sure whether he's going to be in for this game. And it looking bad for Williams. Greenlaw has had his window open though, I think, hasn't he? I doubt he'll play, but looking pretty good.
Yeah, it was interesting to see that. I mean, as you said, Gareth, we did our prediction 8 p.m. Thursday last week, 12 noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, and it crashed and burned. So what better this week than to do it a day early? We're recording on the Wednesday. But I don't think any of us scored significant points. So as far as I'm aware, Lee, you
None
are
of us
still
scored any
top.
points.
Yeah, I was bigging you up, boss. I know you are at the top. And as I said at the start, Lee, it's over to Lee. That's Garbage Gowland for his prediction. And let's see whether he does it clean or dirty.
Bear in mind, this might change by Wednesday morning.
It might.
And I am actually going conservative as far as how many points we're going to get. So I think we're going to get beat 28-24.
Interesting. Well, I have to say, Gareth, despite us being at 5 and 6, I'm not quite ready to give up hope just yet. I feel that we will win this game. This is more in hope than expectation, but I'm going 23-20. 49ers win.
That's hopeful. I'm gonna have to see what it's like on the dirty side, because obviously predicting Niners wins has not been going well for me so far. So unlike Shanahan, I'm going to change my tactics here. I think it's going to be a question of how much the weather keeps it not embarrassing for us. If we churn out a performance like Green Bay, and I don't see that there's going to be much difference, then I think we're possibly going to lose something like 30-13.
See, Gareth, you've come in with a reasonable take, and I can't even add you to the naughty list because you've worded it in a way that you take them on for the team, and that you're trying to put some positive vibes out there in a reverse psychology kind of way.
Totally.
So I can't even be mad at you for that. But
I'm willing to try anything to see if it works. I'm adaptable and not stuck in my ways.
Well, Chris Wood says that classic Paul, hopeful. Red Jet Shell, she has hope in Paul. I'm not ready yet, Lee, to give up. I know the time may come where I have to go to the dark side, but do you know what? I don't even know if I want to win that much. I'm content. I've got a championship under my belt.
I'm pretty sure this is definitely a must-win game for the Niners, though, isn't it? I think not mathematically, but last week kind of was. I think this week is going to put us to something like 4-5% chance of meeting the playoffs.
Yeah, I know what Paul said earlier on, but yeah, if we don't win this game, we don't have a cat in hell's chance.
Well, as Ty Alston says there, when the Niners win, he will be smiling from ear to ear, and so will I. Ty.
We all
By the
will
looks
be.
of it. Yeah. Nobody else will have predicted the Niners win but me, so I'll have loads of points.
I do not care about this while watching the game at all. It's only when it ends.
These could change Friday by Friday.
No, that
so we did say we'll give our
fair.
predictions Friday.
I mean, to be fair, the Pod Faithful group on Discord, they change ours like right up until, don't they? And doesn't Kev record the times that some people put their scores in? So, we're watching. We know, Lee, some people aren't playing in the fairness of the competition. We have to clutch at straws because they're absolutely smashing us. So,
well, I would have said that they're only 5 points ahead.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, if you look at the individuals, yeah, I mean,
yeah, you're right. Yeah,
but it's added a new nuance to the pod this year. I have quite enjoyed the banter on Discord. Now we have done the score predictions. I asked Gareth earlier the flow of the show, and I think I've navigated some rabbit holes, Gareth. But now it's time for bold predictions. So, Gareth, I'm going to come to you first because you don't normally get to give yours first, being the host.
I don't. I don't. Jordan Mason's going to get 3 carries. That's bold.
You stole my thunder.
Oh, no, well, he got 3 last week, so 4 carries. 4. And 3 of them will be in garbage time anyway.
So is it fair to say, Gareth, if I said Jordan Mason was to get double the workload he had last week?
Yeah, 6
that
carries.
Was my bold prediction.
It's so we're such a mess we've lost so much of our identity. I find it difficult to kind of pick out what's who's going to have a good game. What's going to happen? I think we're going to see some fumbles. I think we could see plenty of turnovers, and I think we could see some comedy moments as the ball pinballs around on the floor from player to player. So that could be fun, but I don't know who's going to come up on top of that. But there we go. No, I can't even think of.
You got no more offensive ones? No, we'll do offensive first.
Yeah, offensive. I think Kittle is the only guy I think we can't kind of rely on. If we're going to win it, Kittle's got to have a good game. I'm not putting it all on him, but I think plus he strikes me as the kind of guy who likes a cold weather game, proper football.
So I think because of that, I think Juwan Jennings is going to have a big game. I'm going to go 120 plus yards, 2 touchdowns for Jennings.
Very nice.
And I think Mason will have 15 plus carries.
When I was
Shanahan has learned from his mistakes.
I mean, I agree with what Gareth's saying. I mean, Kittle is ranked number 1 for touchdown scoring amongst the tight ends. He's having a great season. I'd seen some chatter in the group about possibly trading George because his stock was quite high, and I was like, I'm not entertaining any of that talk. Club 85 is going nowhere, especially when he's having the season that he's having. So I do think if Brock is back playing in this kind of game, you tend to favour your tight end. So I agree with that. I think, given that I said we're going to go for a win, Lee, I think we scored 2 touchdowns on the night. Both will be rushing. No surprise given the weather. And I think both will be from CMC. As much as I want to see a Jordan Mason kind of game, I just have a feeling Shanahan's going to be too stubborn and he likes to use his shiny new toy. I've got 3 field goals from Jake Moody, including the game winner. And as I said earlier, Jordan Mason to get double the workload he had last week. So I kept it sensible at 3. I was trying not to go overboard. So defensive. Do you have any defensive baldies for us, Lee?
No, I've got a team one. Sorry, I've got a teams one.
Right.
So what I was going to say is, if it's a snow game, I think there'll be 8 plus fumbles between both teams.
That's kind of what I was alluding to, really.
Yeah.
You can have that, Lee, if you need it.
So
Yeah. Got that spot on there.
Yeah. Defensive side of the ball, I think we're going to see Mustafa hit somebody into next week. It's going to be one of those where you hear the whole crowd go "ooh" moments. He's just going to wallop someone. Someone's going to get free past the defensive line, get all excited, and then not notice that he just comes out of the snow like a missile and flattens somebody. It's not that bold, maybe, and the ball pops about 30 feet up into the air, and one of the big guys catches it and rumbles it in for a touchdown.
you love to predict that, Gareth. When that eventually happens,
big man touchdown, because our offense ain't scoring anything on the ground, so maybe we'll need the D line to run it in.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Mooney Watt to have 2 pick sixes.
Yeah, because Ward could be playing. I mean, I had a cheeky one, similar to Lee when I said team one. I had written down Josh Allen to turn the ball over more than the 49ers QB, because we don't know who that is at the moment. Fred Warner to have a strip, sack, fumble recovery, and Floyd to have 3 sacks going up against his old team. So again, I tried to keep it quite reasonable. I thought the boldest prediction of all is that the 49ers are going to win. I'm sticking my neck out on there, but I wonder what Najee would have said if he was here, Lee. Do you think he'd have had a few Jordan Mason ones? Do we need to make some predictions on Najee's behalf? Or?
So Najee's been incredibly quiet ever since I messaged him on Sunday night to say, did you see Jimmy Watt's pick 6? He hasn't spoken to us since then, so I'm not quite sure what he'd be thinking. I think he's still sat in the corner of his room crying.
This might be one of my favourite bold predictions. Martin Hughes, Kittle touchdown, and he built a snowman in the end zone. Hey, stranger things have happened. Now, we usually play an advert on the live, but we have said, Gareth, that the music gets flagged for copyright at the moment. So I will just take this opportunity, Lee, to shout out our awesome partners, Power Brand Systems, who empowers creators and businesses to build their brand, attract an audience, and grow through effective systems and software solutions. And before we finish off, I also wanted to tip a nod to this weekend. It's My Cause, My Cleats. So during these next 2 weeks, NFL players will be wearing customised cleats in honour of the charitable causes that they support. And when I looked into it, people will have an opportunity to purchase those cleats in kind of like an auction. I think there's an NFL site you go on and you can bid for game worn attire. And I always quite like to see, Gareth, the different charities that the players support and the interesting cleats. We love our merch on this show. Someone commented on our hoodies. Yet again, we got the memo. Salute to service, all three of us. I quite like that. And
no Shanna jacket though. Very disappointed.
Oh no. So Gareth, the reach on social media, fanatics replied to shut me up, I think, but I was determined to get an answer for the faithful. Now, the first reply on Monday was a bit strange because they reached out and said, Paul, not all the garments that the players wear are available to buy. And I thought, well, that's a lie. Because on the photo I used, it was this year's Salute to Service hoodie, which we know is available to buy because I've seen loads of people in the group with them. However, they have said that the jackets, the grey jackets that all the coaches have been wearing as it stands at the moment, won't be released for sale. So that fantastic moment we had, Lee, on Discord a couple of weeks ago, where Carl rocked that jacket, it's looking unlikely as it stands today.
He did
That's a big shame, that.
Yeah, and see that bit about the Shanna jacket, it reminded me of something, and I think I've pinpointed the moment where it all went wrong for us this season, and that was the loss of the Shanna tash back just before we started pre-season. You know, we didn't. That's clearly where it all went wrong. I said at the time, it was a bad move to lose the Shanna tash.
So Ty Alston is going to make his own jacket. Yes, Martin, and many a tear was shed in the faithful UK groups that jacket isn't available at the moment. I always remember, I think you got the red Shanna hoodie, Lee. Was it last year or the year before? And I was like, shall I get it? Shall I not get it?
Ago.
And then it sold out. And I was like, oh. So normally now, if I see something like that, Gareth, I've got to get it. But before we finish off, chaps, it is Thanksgiving tomorrow. So I would like to take this opportunity to wish all of our friends across the pond a happy Thanksgiving. And are either of you gentlemen doing anything for Thanksgiving other than watching football?
I am. So I'm making what I would call a Christmas dinner, but I'm calling it a Thanksgiving dinner. So it's a roast turkey, all the trimmings and stuff like that. It's the first time I've done it, and obviously I'm not working at the moment, so I've got all day to do it. So yeah, I thought I'd do that, and then once the wife gets in from work and the boys get in from work, we can sit down, we can have a dinner and watch the Lions beat up on people.
What about you, Gareth?
It's Thursday for me, so
yeah. I just thought I'd ask because I mean
it's work and the normal and normal. I doubt I will be catching any football. I'll keep an eye on my phone, and hope everyone over in the US does enjoy their Thanksgiving. But unfortunately there'll be nothing special for me. It is just a Thursday for me.
Well, you get the Thursday night off recording the 49 Faithful.
I do. Maybe I get that. I am thankful for that.
I've got a few people in the chat shouting out. So Martin has wished everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Lee, set an extra plate because Ty Alston is flying across.
So apparently there'll be plenty of food. So Andrea texted us this morning to say how many people are coming around for dinner on Thursday night. And I thought it was really strange. I thought, well, there's going to be 4 of us. Why? How come you bought 3 bags of parsnips then? The thing I love on dinners most, Christmas dinners and stuff like this, is roast parsnip. Mm-hmm. And because we share them out, I'm kind of looking at my little pile of parsnips thinking, I wish I had more. So I bought 3 bags of them.
Well, Lee, there's something you share in common with Tracy. So, as you said, Gareth, in the UK for Thanksgiving, the football's on a lot earlier for us. So I'm finishing work at 5 o'clock tomorrow, 5:30. The first game is on. But like you, I'm not sure how much of the football I will watch because I did tell Tracy and the girls that I have a Thursday night off. So I have no doubt something is being planned for me, Lee. But we did want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
I kind of enjoy a bad weather game. It's let's see what they're made of. I'm glad they're out in it, and I'm not. But resigned to it. I think after the last game, so this is either going to put me out of my misery or drag it out for another week. But if we can beat the Bills, maybe that's some sort of confidence boost that we can take back home and push on for the rest of the season. And if not, it's only football.
Yeah, what about you, Lee?
Yeah, so we've got two members that are out there, Sam Trammer and David Moss, and I hope they both have a really enjoyable night. I hope Sam survives the weather. As you recall, last year at the gold mine, when it was a balmy 16 degrees at Levi Stadium, but we're all freezing to death, Sam was on the back row, right in the corner, next to me, Brett Sinclair, and Dave Betteridge, and he didn't handle the cold 16 degrees very well. We all thought he was going to die of hypothermia, so I can't imagine what he's going to be like come Sunday night. But
He might have
I
got
hope they
himself.
enjoy themselves.
He might have got himself
Sorry,
one of
Paul.
those. He might have got himself one of those snowsuits that Kittle misses and Juice's misses had on Sunday. And you're rightly, I'm smiling because the two interns that were looking after us in the gold mine at the start of the gold mine game, we were all in our jerseys, no jackets on. It was quite a warm day, I felt. And them two young girls at the front were freezing, and they were talking about coming across the pond to Europe. And I was like, if you think this is cold, wait till you come across. So when I found out Sam was going out, Lee, I was a little bit concerned, but I'm sure he'll be well wrapped up and he'll have a blanket or two.
To be fair, it probably was warmer on the lower levels of that
It was the
platform.
wind. That's what I remember. That
because
wind just
we were at
cutting
the
straight
back.
through us.
There was nobody covering us. There was nobody shielding us from the wind. So we got the full brunt of that coming through. And obviously, me, Andy, Jimmy Waters, we were just there in T-shirts, and Dave Betteridge was there in T-shirts or jerseys. Everybody else were wrapped up in hoodies. In fact, going down to the team store to buy hoodies, fleece blankets, woolly hats, gloves, anything they
Jackets.
can get
It's
hold
where
of.
Nadji got his jacket,
jackets.
remember?
Yeah, that's right. That's
So-
right.
And it just reminded me, you shared that photo of you guys in Stanford in the freezing cold on your Facebook today.
Yeah.
That was a couple of years ago. And I must
So
admit,
again, that
Gareth,
was another strange one because it was 13 degrees, yet I have never felt as cold as I did that day. But that's because I'd been to San Jose on the afternoon to watch the Spartans play, where it was 20, 21 degrees, and we sat in the sunshine, absolutely melting, and went straight up to Stanford, where the temperature dropped to 13 degrees. It was a night game, an evening game, and we still had the same stuff on that we had on at San Jose. So obviously we had to go and start by thermals, woolly hats and all sorts.
yeah, it
But
was,
yeah, it just hits different.
it was rather cold in the northeast of England today. I was out on visits and I was outside and I thought, God, if this is cold, wait till Sunday. Now, before we finish off, it is a red-eye game for the UK faithful. That is 1:20 a.m. kickoff, which will mean after dark on Discord, which is Nadji's baby. Please do all that good stuff. Like, subscribe, tell your friends about us. And like you said, Gareth, it's only football. I'm going to tune in. I'm going to watch this one. I'm going to have some banter in the Discord group. We will be back next week, Lee, win, lose or draw, to review the game. We don't know whether it'll be group therapy, whether it'll be a rage fuel session. Lee might have some choice words. But other than that, Gareth, go on, Lee.
I was going to say, I am past the whole raging thing now. I've raged. Nothing has happened this week. Brian Schneider's still in the job. Nick Sorensen's still in the job. They will be until the end of the season.
Yeah.
Well, it is Thanksgiving. Maybe Carl's trying to be nice and, not fire anybody in the holiday week. But, as I said...
I'd fire them straight away. In
Well-
fact, I'd drive them to the airport.
On that note, all that is left for me to say is thank you for watching. Please do like, subscribe, tell all your friends. And Lee, go Niners.
Bang, bang, Niner gang.
Go Niners.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, Deke Clark. Garrison Hurst, stiff farm going 99.